All right, all right, all right. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I am the host, the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as other things. And this is going to be a mix of the RV industry and other things because life has gotten very interesting here in March of 2025. I haven't talked much about it because we've had so many things that have occurred in one specific area. We've talked about Brinkley RV the majority of the month and their sidewall cracking and debunking frame failure, frame flex of Brinkley RV. And we've now talked about, the hypocrisy of the corporate RV dealership YouTubers, at least we'll say some of them, that decided they want to jump in the comments of my videos because who knows why. But the reality is that there's more to life than the problems with Brinkley RV, and there's more to life than people that want to jump into my comment section. And I understand that there are some people that disagree with me. I got a great several emails this month, a couple in the last 2 hours or so that I got to read through while I'm charging the car. And one of them was from a gentleman. And again, I'm not going to say names. You guys know I never, say names. But this gentleman is having the cracking in the sidewall of his Brinkley RV. And very happy to hear that the coverage I'm giving about it. And a lot of the emails I've received from folks that are having the cracking problem with their Brinkley travel trailer or fifth wheel or toy hauler, all of them have pretty much said the same thing. They don't feel like they're getting gaslit. They do think one commonality between the 50 or 60 emails I've gotten so far from Brinkley RV owners is they feel like Brinkley isn't telling the complete story. And one of the things that I responded, or how I would respond and like to respond to folks that are watching, is it's hard for Brinkley RV to say exactly what the problem is until they know exactly what the problem is. When you have that much thrown at you all at once, pretty much, there is a process that has to occur for them to be able to figure out what really went wrong. Why did these stress cracks happen on these fifth wheels, on these travel trailers? Thank you so much. So that would be my response to those folks. As far as some of the emails I've gotten that are hate emails, I just wish people would get a life. I really do. I wish people would actually get a life. Instead of trolling people in their live streams and trolling people on emails, go do something with your life that actually matters. I mean, it's ridiculous. I understand people want to defend their idols or the people that they watch or the people that they deal with. Excuse me, blow my nose real quick. Actually, sneeze real quick. So I understand, there's people that come to my defense. Okay, there's people that come to my defense, but they come to my defense because I tell it how it is. I don't fill people full of bull crap. Okay. It's kind of interesting. The emails I get from folks have this really good effect on me, especially when I get emails from people saying, thank you so much for the information. I have a guy who just bought a 2023 Grand Design Momentum used. He had been doing his research. He's followed the podcast for over a year. He's like, he went and tested it by himself. He knows how to test it. He double checked his insurance company will cover it. He found an insurance company that'll cover frame failure / frame flex as long as it gets inspected before they insure it. Just hearing people, or I should say reading people's stories, keeps me motivated to keep doing this. Even when I'm not feeling good, I light a fire under my own butt and say, I need to get the podcast going. I need to keep it going. Okay. But then life kind of starts settling in with things. And what I mean by that is I got to get to a point where I'm making an income on YouTube. Ad revenue is not enough. Okay. It's just a fact of life. I need outside help on how to really truly monetize my YouTube channel, both my main channel and this podcast. Because if I can get, and this is what I was thinking in my mind last night, I've got 16,000 subscribers on the main channel. Not all of them are active, but 16,000. And I've got 4,800 and change here on the podcast. If I could get every subscriber to somehow or way donate $10 to the podcast, I could focus in on this thing full time. So I'm trying to think, how do I go about, what could I do in my shoes where I could get $10 a year from every single subscriber I have on YouTube, TikTok, etc., and I give them a service back? What service could I provide that would make people feel comfortable enough to donate $10 a year? Because if I could get $10 a year from even half of the subscribers, half of the listeners, half of the watchers, I could do this full time. I could focus my time on the podcast, focus my time in on the main channel, and stop working basically 3 jobs. So that's what I'd like to ask you guys as the audience. What are your thoughts on that? What are some ideas you may have that would help me out in that respect? Because I have no clue. And to give you guys a little background, no one's going to sponsor my channel from a corporation because of the way I run this channel, and I'm not going to change it. So I've reached out to outside companies like Modelo, Corona, stuff that like is part of the RV lifestyle, but then again doesn't deal with the RV lifestyle, because Lippert isn't going to sponsor me. All the other little websites that sell parts is not going to sponsor me. Manufacturers are not going to pay me because they know that if, let's just say, let's use Keystone as an example. I don't sell Keystone right now, so let's use Keystone as an example. Let's say that Jeff from Keystone, El Presidente, calls me up and says, hey, I'm going to give you 50 grand a year to be a spokesperson for Keystone. Well, what comes with that? Well, what comes with that is I have to no longer speak badly about Keystone when Keystone does something stupid. That's not going to happen. So there's no outside source that no inside source in the industry that's going to sponsor me, right? Forest River isn't going to sponsor me. There isn't going to be because there's like 6 or 7 companies and, like, if I remember right, like 8 or 9 divisions, okay? And I have no problem sticking my foot up a Forest River Products ass if they're doing something wrong. No problem at all doing that. So sponsorship is not going to come from the RV industry. So I looked at Coca-Cola, Doritos, barbecues. I looked at all that. Nobody is interested in sponsoring a channel as small as mine. Now, I've been told by a lot of people that 16,000 subscribers on YouTube is outstanding. But to corporations and big companies, they think 16,000 subscribers is a micro channel. So they're not going to spend the money on little old me. That's kind of the mindset. So I want ideas from you, the audience. That's my goal. Part of my goal is, what do you guys think? And just let me know in the comment section, or you guys know my email, livingstonrvservices@gmail.com. Send me an email with your thoughts. Love to hear from you. You know, I already have the clothing store and the apparel store. It's just too expensive. I appreciate everybody that bought something from the store, the merchandise. I really do, but it's really expensive. You know, it's tough. Not everybody really wants to afford a $50,000 hoodie or a $20 coffee cup, right? So it's kind of one of those catch-22 things. I can't afford to really do my own clothing line, so I have to use a dropship company, which was a good idea. And a lot of you have bought stuff, and I'm really appreciative. Trust me, it's gone back to everything that I made from the clothing store, all went back into the channel and the podcast. But that kind of segues me into a different subject, and that is, when I am speaking, you know, I got this really interesting email from a guy that has, he's actually on the banking side of the industry. I'm not going to say where or what side of it, kind of thing, but in the banking part of the industry. And him and I always have some really interesting back and forths on LinkedIn or Instagram or email. And he sent me an email last night that I read this morning. And one of the things was asking in a very polite way if the rumors are true, and Miles RV, MYLES RV, not Jason from RV Miles, Miles RV, if it's true that the rumors that he's getting $100,000 or $120,000 a year check from Brinkley RV somehow on the backside of things, am I jealous of that? And I said no. It was instant no. I'm not jealous over it, because what these big corporate RV dealership YouTubers represent is very different than what I represent and what I bring to the table. Okay, so let's pick on Josh the RV nerd for a minute, because easy to pick on, because he's probably the hardest working of all of us. Probably harder working than Matt's RV reviews and towable reviews. Okay, Josh probably puts out, what, 500 to 600 walkthrough videos a year. Long form. We're not talking about short form. We're just talking about long form only. He turns the camera around, 8 to 20 minute videos, doing walkthroughs on stuff that Bish's RV carries. What he represents for the manufacturers, what he represents for Bish's, is very different than what I do. What Liz Amazing does is very different than what I do. And Josh and Liz, as an example, are two very opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay? So if a guy who's going to put in 500 walkthrough videos a year, 600 walkthrough videos a year, and he's getting a nice little back-end paycheck from the manufacturers, I salute you. I'm a capitalist. Okay? But see, there has to be someone in the industry that isn't sunshine and rainbows and ain't Armageddon, as I put it. There has to be someone that's balanced with all this. And it can't be a brand ambassador. It can't be a corporate person. It can't be someone who's never turned a wrench in the RV industry, never sold an RV at an RV dealership. It can't be some guy that sits in his RV and talks shit all day with a group of his own buddies that own dealerships. That stuff, and it can't be a guy that owned 4 coaches in less than 10 months. It can't be those guys. There has to be some kind of middle ground and balance from it. This can't be a roller coaster ride. So I will never get that kind of check or that kind of offer from a manufacturer. But I knew that going into this. So that's why, like, when I got asked that, I'm like, instantaneously, no. Like, if Miles RV is making 120 grand a year from Brinkley to go into people's comment sections and start trying to deflect problems or whatever the case may be, I salute you. Just like when Liz Amazing, if she's really, like, by my math, by the math I've always used from vidIQ and TubeBuddy and a bunch of these other YouTube experts, Liz Amazing is making 30, 40 grand a month in ad revenue from what she does. But you also have to consider that Liz Amazing doesn't have any corporate sponsors, doesn't have anybody knocking on her door saying, hey, I'll give you 50 grand a month to put Modelo on your website or whatever the case may be. So she deserves to get paid for her work, right? Just like if Josh the RV Nerd was getting a back-end paycheck, let's say every manufacturer was giving Josh 20, 25, 30 grand a year on the back end of things to do all those walkthrough videos, then he should be paid, especially when he does 5 and 6 and 700 of those videos a year. I mean, I don't think people realize how much work that is. Yes, I've given Josh shit in the past, and that's okay. I'm going to give all of them crap. I'm going to give every one of them crap. When they step in doo-doo and do something stupid, I'm going to be on top of it. But we also got to give credit where credit's due. And credit is due. If you're going to work that hard, you should get paid for it. But a guy like me is not going to get paid like that because I'm not going to follow some corporate marketing strategy line of defense or line of doing things. That's not who I am. That's not ever what I'm going to do. Another very interesting commonality in emails that I've received this month has been asking me questions about brands that people are shopping. Okay? And it's very interesting to hear some of the brands that people are asking about. Coachman Freedom Express, as an example. Somebody asked me what I thought about Coachman Freedom Express. And I'm, compared to Alliance, compared to a Rockwood Flagstaff. And I'm like, well, it's not what it once was, but it's not a bad product. I try not to BS people. Like, it's like, I don't want you to think like everything's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but then again, you have to make your own decisions with that, right? The other interesting email I got that's about asking about brands is there's folks that asked me about Palomino. They're asking me about Columbus fifth wheels. And I'm like, Columbus fifth wheels have always been really nice. I think Columbus fifth wheels was on the verge of being the next Grand Design RV. And then I don't know what happened. It just got stale. It got so stale that they lost a lot of dealers. But then I saw something online that a guy sent me through email, and it was a series of videos, short form content to start, where it's showing the actual factory workers putting together a Columbus fifth wheel and explaining how they put it together. So whoever the GM of Palomino Columbus, are you watching my podcast? I'm wondering, because I said that a while back ago. I said that about a year ago. So a year ago, I said that the way fifth wheel manufacturers were going to regain the trust of the consumer was through transparency. This is the first time that it isn't a marketing stunt. It is a marketing tool, but it's not a marketing stunt. When you actually watch what they're doing, the videos were about electrical and the axles that they use for the different size Columbus fifth wheels. And you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on TikTok too. I found it on TikTok too. Somebody either posted it there or shared it there. So the reality is it seems like whoever's running Columbus fifth wheels right now wants to show full transparency of how they're putting it together. They're not sending in, a Matt or a JD or, a Jason from RV Miles, at least not yet, or Josh the RV Nerd. They're literally doing their own, basically, video content, and instead of it being just, hey, we're just like Brinkley, but we're $8,000 less. I mean, that's all I ever freaking hear anymore. Oh, look, I make the perfect drawer. No, this is like actual full transparency, which is very interesting. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where they go with this. And I would say this, and I'm gonna volunteer this. If you really want to go full transparency, and Doug Gettard approves it, I'd be more than happy to fly out to Indiana and do a real actual factory tour and factory assembly thing my way, not some legalese marketing person up my ass, but actual, like, my way, my style, or the highway, basically. I would be willing to come in and do those videos for you guys. If you're going to be that transparent, I would be more than happy to be that person that brings that transparency to light. I think that would be amazing. I think that even if people, you're going to have your critics. You're never going to stop having your critics. You're going to have people who are going to be critical no matter what you do. You could build it exactly perfect and people still bitch and complain. Just a fact of life. You could build it better than a Ferrari and it's still an earthquake on wheels. It's still going to have issues. It's just a fact of life. But I would be willing to go and actually do that for them, because if that's where they're going, if that's their outside of the box thinking, instead of being afraid of social media, using social media as an actual tool, man, I mean, that might be the next big thing. That could be right there, the very next big fifth wheel brand if you could get that kind of exposure. You know, showing why you order your frame the way you do, why you put the axles on the way you do, what corners do you cut to cut the pricing down. You know, not all the BS, right? It seems like that's the path they're on. So if that's truly the path they're going to be on, to me, that's just two thumbs way up. I mean, that's just like saying that that's just like Brinkley RV stepping up with the sidewall cracking. I mean, that's two manufacturers heading in the right direction, right? Now, Palomino RV is under Forest River, but it's a completely different and separate division. And, you know, obviously, you know, the CEO of Forest River now, which is Doug Gettard, would have to sign off on it. Probably some of the lawyers would have to sign off on it. They'd probably be scared half to death of me doing it, because they're probably like, well, do we really want to let him do it? Because if he does it, he's going to show everything. Ugh. But yeah, I mean, I would be just out of this world. I think it'd be fun. I think that would be a lot of fun. You know, there's a lot of things I think of in my head. Like, I was telling the guys I've been helping in Northern California, you know, and then I told the guys at Scout Campers and Adventure Campers, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all these. So I'm on 32 video platforms. 32. What? 29 of them are all 30-second or less video clips. Most of these apps don't pay you. But you have to be on them. You have to. If you're a dealership, if you're a manufacturer, you have to understand the consumer is on these apps. They're on Likey, they're on Lemonade, they're on Clapper, they're on Triller, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube. I mean, pretty much anymore, people's homework and education comes on social media. That's why I get so pissed sometimes at these people that use the dumb word of innovation. What innovation? Nobody's innovated shit in this industry for probably 10 years. You know? It's cool when somebody comes up with an original floor plan. Not very many of those come out yearly. You know? I would say probably the guy that probably used to change the most was my old boss, Red. Red changed things in floor plans all the time. He always wanted to be unique. You know, with Coachman Clipper and Viking travel trailers, he always wanted to be unique. He wanted to always have something unique that no one else is doing. You know, they're the only ones at the time that were doing a Murphy bed U-shaped dinette in the front of a coach. So you got in a small little 16 to 20 foot trailer, you got a big U-shaped dinette that actually converted into a Murphy bed. It was one of the only trailers at 22 feet in total length with a slide, a couch, dinette, and bed. Okay. And, you know, you got to give credit where credit's due, right? Coming up with a 14-foot trailer that has 3 bar stools and a main bed with a large kitchen counter and a small sink. Like, just the things that Red used to think of outside of the box, of always constantly thinking, like, okay, this 16-footer's been our best seller, but we got to do something to revamp it. Let's remove the dinette and put 2 captain's chairs instead with a foldable table or a single leg table. I mean, every year he was doing something to kind of, I don't even know if he's still there, but if he is, you know, I'm pretty sure he's still doing the same thing, like that out of the box thinking. Even though not all of his ideas got to go to production, you know, there's not a lot of innovation in this industry, because there's only so many ways you can build a fifth wheel. There's only so many ways you can configure a travel trailer or a motorhome. You can't just customize something and, oh yeah, it's going to work no matter what. We have figured out through the problems with frame failure and frame flex and grand design that it's not as easy as snap your fingers, we're going to make all these changes and everything's going to be hunky-dory. We're finding out the hard way, or at least the industry found out the hard way, that the way grand design was doing things was not working. That's why all these frames are failing. That's why there's this big class action lawsuit that's being put together by 4 huge law firms. They're pouring dollars into this thing. So the reality is that there's only so many ways you can do things. You can change colors. You could change designs. You could change the way a countertop flows. You can change appliances. But then again, you got to get everything re-engineered on the frame when you do that. When you add weight, you subtract weight. You have to get approval on, you have to go to Lippert or BAL, Norco, NXG. In Northwood Manufacturing's case, they got to go to their own frame people because they build all their frames in-house and say, this is what we want to change. And then you have to get that frame signed off on. You know, it's a process. And life doesn't go to how you want it to go. Life is going to go the way that it is able to go. You know, I mean, I've been driving around an electric car since September, ever since my car took a shit because of Jiffy Lube. And I could tell you right now, I had to adapt. It's not all hunky-dory. All of a sudden, Hertz doesn't want to back the products that they bought. I mean, it's one of those situations where the concept of an electric car is wonderful, but in practicality, it doesn't work. Not the way it needs to work to make everyday life easier. It's, again, you have to change your whole life around this zero emissions crap that people have in their mind, even though the carbon footprint of building an electric car, there was somebody that told me that the math was 600,000 miles. You'd have to drive an electric car 600,000 miles without changing the batteries to catch up to the carbon footprint it took to build that vehicle. Isn't that amazing? Well, a gasoline car, somebody's telling me it was 300,000 miles, half the miles to catch up to the carbon footprint. Isn't that really amazing? I don't know if it's true, but it sounds right, but I don't know if it's true. So just kind of some food for thought for today. You know, I've just felt like kind of coming on, just chatting it up. So until next time, remember that RV will always stand for toolkit and sense of humor.